Hey guys. Yeah, welcome everyone. I can see we have 6 learners already on board. If you can hear me, just say hi in the chat box so I can know if my microphone is working correctly. Okay. Abisola, hi, and Ifeanyi, hi, Shola, hi. We have we have people hearing then. So let's wait for the class is supposed to start by 5. So this is 4:57 here. Just turned 58. So let's wait for 2-3 minutes so that others can join us and we can proceed from there. New banger, hi, how you doing? Okay, we have Smitha Maya, we have Opemi or JBC, we have Unique Ideas, we have Gabriela, we have Kelvin. Welcome everyone. I have acknowledged Abisola and the rest. We have Carlos, we have Clement, we have Rufai, we have Judith, we have Emmanuel, we have okay, we have Balikis. Let's wait for 2 minutes so that others can join us and we can start on a good foot. Okay, we have others joining us. Balikis, welcome. If you can hear me clearly, just say it in the chat box that you can hear me clearly so I can know that everyone can hear me. Donald, welcome. Yewande, welcome. Okay, Yomi, yes, you can hear me. That's great. Okay, so I think it's 5 p.m. and I'd like for us to keep to time because we have a lot of things to cover. Others who come late might go back later when the video is out on YouTube, maybe next week or upper week. They can catch up. So I would start with sharing my screen and giving an introduction to this session first. If you can see my screen, just say yes in the chat box if you can see my screen. Okay, that's great. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So today's session is a low code session, and we are going to see how to build a logistics application using Bubble without writing code. So what I have here in Figma is just the landing page design of how it's going to look like, just the landing page. Now I did not have enough time to come up with the whole design. I just created this as the landing page to give us a guide on how to start. So we are going to see how to create a logistics application. Now, this logistics application we are assuming that it's for a company that already does logistics, that's already in the logistics business, but they are completely offline. Like for you to send something from one city in Nigeria to the other city, you need to manually take your stuff to their office, drop it there, write down the details, and go back home. Now, we are assuming that this company actually wants to digitize a part of their service so that users can actually find the experience easy. Now, what are they trying to do? We are assuming that the company is trying to create an application where users can go on by themselves, create an account there, log in after they create an account, then type in the details of the package they want to send, then have a logistics driver go to that location that the user entered, pick up pick up the package there to the logistics office and have that package delivered within the country. Now you can also attest that for those who are not from Nigeria, sorry about this, but for Nigerians, you can attest to this fact that we have lots of logistics companies who operate like this currently, who are not digitized. They do everything manually. And the most stressful part for customers is when customers need to take this package. Okay, Clement, can you guys hear me? Someone is saying they can't hear me. Okay, so the most difficult part of the service is always when users have to take the goods from their house, when users have to take the goods from their house to the logistics office. So we are going to build an application that users will use to get that part of the whole experience sorted, and we are going to do that using Bubble. So if you are using Bubble for the first time, someone is saying they can't hear me. Can you guys hear me now? If you are using Bubble for the first time, head over to bubble.io. I think I have to log out. I need to make this easy for people. So this is going to be the page you will get to, bubble.io. When you get here, click on Get Started. When you click on Get Started, type in your email address and your password, then click on Get Started. That's how to create an account with Bubble. It's as easy as that. So when you are done creating an account with Bubble, okay, when you are done creating an account with Bubble, the next thing is to log in. So I would come here and I would log in. So I'll type in my password and I am logged in. Now, when you are logged in, the next thing to do is to create the application you want to create, because that's the purpose of having an account with Bubble. So to create an application, in this case, we want to create a logistics application, yeah? So to create an application, when you log in, come here and click on New App. Now, I hope everyone is hearing me. Now, when you click on New App, okay, when you click on New App, then you type in the name of the app you want to create. So I can call this Logistics Nigeria. You can call it whatever you want to call it. Now, when I type in the name there, I would come here and I would select Directory and Listings. Then I would come here and I would select External or Customer Facing. Then come here and I would select Start a Business. And I won't put in any details here because it's optional. When I select Start a Business, I would come here and I would click on Create a New App. And that's it. We have just created the Bubble application that we will build into our logistics app. And this is it. Tolu Walokwe says, can I restart ASAP? Okay, so this is it here. So you'd wait for the app to be created. It's going to show that sign. Now, take note of this stage. When you create your app and you are taken to this page, you would have this show up. Now, the action you should take here is this. Come here, click on Start with a blank page first. When you click on Start with a blank page, then click on Close the Assistant. And that's it. So what you have here is the Bubble canvas. Like, this is where we are going to design and build our app, just like the canvas that you have in Figma, which is where we normally design our app. In Bubble, this is the canvas here. So this is where we are going to design and build our app. Now, if anyone is lost to this point, you can just say it. Okay. Fidelis says he missed out on the steps. I would still go over the steps later. But if anyone has any questions, you can say it in the chat box now before I proceed to the next stage, which is going to be the stage where we will build this landing page here. That's going to be the next stage. Okay, fine. Let's go over this once more. So I would come here. I'll delete. Okay, there is no need to delete this. No need to delete this. Let's create a new app. Now, when you sign up to the application and you log in, you'll be taken to this page. The next thing will be for you to come and click new app. This new app. When you click on it, type in the name of the app. When you type in the name of the app, come here and select directory and listings. When you select directory and listings, come here, select external or customer facing, then come here and select start a business. After that, click on create a new app. When you click on create a new app, you would wait for the app to load, like it's going to take some seconds to load. When it loads, the next thing you do is to click on the button that says start with a blank page. The button is on the left side here, almost at the bottom. Start with a blank page. After you click on start with a blank page, then you click close the assistant, and that's it. When you click on close the assistant, you'd have this type of page show up. This type of bubble page. It's loading currently. This is the type of page you are going to have, just like this. So I think I can now proceed here. Okay, so the next thing we are going to do is to set the layout. Like here in Figma, yeah, when you bring in a layout, like a MacBook Pro layout, you always make some settings. Like you put grid layout, you put some things just to set it so that you can properly use it. Yeah, that's what we are going to do now. Now this is our own canvas here. This is our own layout, and the layout starts from this blue line here. You see one blue line here to this point. That's the layout. That's the container that will contain all of the elements. Yeah. So if you don't have the grid lines showing up like this, what you should do is come here, click on grid and borders, then select show grid. You can see mine is selected. That's why I have grid lines showing up. If I deselect it, the grid lines will show up. When I click on show grid, the grid lines will show. So after I set the grid lines, the next thing I'll do is for us to set the size of the page. So I'll set the width. To set that, double click on the page. When you double click on it, like this, you will have um this window, this black item here show up. Now it is this black item that we will use to set the size of the page and other settings of the page. So before I do that, I would like to know if everyone is following. Okay then. So now for us to work with this little page that just came up, you would see that if you come here, there is a message that says upgrade responsive. Now, this button here is actually telling us to upgrade to the current responsive engine that Bubble uses. That's it. So all we are going to do is click on it. Just click on this button first. When you click on it, then click on upgrade. It's free actually. You don't have to pay. Then you wait for it to be upgraded. And in some seconds now, it will be upgraded. And that's it. It has been upgraded. Now for this video here, this page, just close it. There is no need for that. Just close it. And here we have an upgraded responsive engine for our page. So now I'll double click on the page again. When I double click on it, this window will come out. This black window will come out. But now, this time around, it does not have that upgrade button here. The button is not here anymore. So what we are going to do first of all is to come here, click on layout. Currently, appearance is what is selected. So I would click on layout. When I click on layout, you see that we have the settings. If I come here and I click on conditional, we have all of these. We have this here. So we have conditional at the top, layout, and appearance. So let's click on layout. Reason we are clicking on layout is because we want to configure the layout, which is our home page. So what we have here is container layout. It is set to fixed. So we will change this to column. Now, reason we are changing this to column is because, column goes from top to bottom, right? So we want every item inside this layout to be positioned from top to bottom, because that's how websites are actually. Websites are on a website or a web application, things are positioned from top to bottom. That's why we scroll down, scroll vertically, and that's a column movement. So if that's clear, can you guys hear me now? Okay. All right. All right. So since column is top to bottom, and that's how objects are organized on websites or web applications, that's why we are setting this layout setting to column, because that's how we want ours to be set. Now, the next thing we are going to set here is the width, like the wideness of this our page. And I would want us to use 1200. Just type in 1200 and that's fine. After that, I think we are done with setting this page. So we are now ready to start placing items on the page, and like we are now ready to start putting elements and designing the page to look like this. So if that's clear, then we can proceed. If you guys want me to proceed, then I can proceed. If you have any questions, you can say it. All right then. So the next thing I'd like for us to do now is to create this top section. You can see that here in our design, we have this top section that has the logo, what we do, contact us, and the login button. So I'd want for us to create this. So how do we do that? We will come here in Bubble, and we will create that as a reusable element. Why am I saying it's going to be a reusable element? It's going to be a reusable element because if you go to website, you would see that, let's say we come to this website. So if we come to this website, okay, that's not present. If we go to websites, like if you come to this website, you see that on most websites, when you go to the homepage, you see the logo and those links at the top. When you go to the services page, you will still see the logo and those links at the top. Like if I go to GitHub now, you see that at the top here we have these items. If I go to team, you see that we still have all those items at the top here. If I come back to home, everything at the top is still there at the top. Now, that top itself is being reused in the home page, is being reused in the team page, is being reused on so many pages. So that's why it's a reusable element. We need to reuse it. And to reuse it means that we don't have to build it from scratch every time we need to have it on a page. So that's why we are going to as create this top section as a reusable element. So how do we do that? It's simple. To create a, yes, just like components in Figma. Now to create a reusable element, what you do is come here, scroll down, on the left here, scroll down. When you scroll down, I think you guys, someone is saying they can't hear me. So when you scroll down to the left here, you'd see a reusable element section. Now what you do is this: come under this section and click on new reusable. There is a button here That button is for when you want to create a new reusable element. So let's click on it. When we click on it, we are going to call this header. You can call it whatever you want to call it. When we call it header, I would come here and I would click on create, just like this. And it's going to create it for me. Now, this is it. This is my reusable element. But of course, we want it to look like this. We want it to be this wide and have all of these elements inside of it. So that's why we cannot allow it to look like this. So this means that we need to configure this, or we need to work on this. And how do we work on this? Now, someone say they can't see the screen. Okay. Now, if you guys can see my screen, just say you can see my screen in the chat box there. Now, for you to work on this reusable element, yeah, for you to work on it, double click on it. When you double click on it, its own property window, like this black window for this reusable element, will show. So now it is this one that we will use actually to edit our reusable elements to look like what we have here in Figma. So how do we do that first? The first thing we need to do is we need to make it wide, Abby. To me, we need to make it wide, right? So to make it wide, I would come here. First things first, I would upgrade to responsive beta, like the new responsive engine. Always upgrade. And that's because Bubble has given us this new engine that makes the job really easy. So I would click on upgrade here and I would upgrade. Now let's wait for the upgrade to be complete. And that's it. The upgrade is complete. So let's double click on the reusable element once more. Then come here, click on layout. And when we click on layout, we will first of all set the container layout settings. Remember, I just talked about column. Like it's only when you want things to be stacked from top to bottom, then you can use column. But in this case, as you can see in this reusable element here, things are stacked from the left to the right. Like things are not stacked from top to bottom. So the best option I would like for you to choose here is align to parent, not row. Row can work, but align to parent works better. So let's select align to parent. Now, when you set it to align to parent, the next thing is for you to set the width, like the wideness of this device. And we want that reusable element to be as wide as our layout, right? And our layout, remember, we set it to 1200. So I'll just come here. I'll set this to 1200. Then the next thing is for me to set the height. Now, this height is too much. I would come here and I'll set it to 100. So I would set the height to 100, and that's okay. Now, for these properties here, I don't want any padding here or any margin here. I just want it to just be like this. I want it to be like this, and I'm fine. So let's close this. And let's see what we have here. The next thing we have is this logo and the name of the company, which is Sender. I'll zoom in so that you guys can see. So we have the logo here and the name of the company, which is Sender. So if you guys can hear me. Yes, someone is saying, are we to upgrade? Yes, you are. You are to upgrade on every page that you create. There is need for you to upgrade so that you can use the new responsive engine. So I would come here now. Let's come here. Let's see how we can bring in this logo. First things first, I would come here in Figma and I would download this logo I would download it to my computer as an image. So I would come here, I would click on export. Now I would advise you to download it as an SVG. Then I would export it. Now it's been exported to my computer, yeah. So the next thing we need to do is to put that logo inside our header here. Now the logo is an image, and when you want to place an image on a page or on an element in Figma, what you do is come here, you would use the image tool. This is the image tool here. So I would select the image tool by clicking on it. That's because I want to use it. I would select it by clicking on it. Then I would come here. I would click, hold, and drag. and this is it. Now, this space that I have created here is the space that will contain the image I want to place inside this element. Now, I would want this space that will contain the image to be a 32 pixel by 32 pixel space. Like, let it be 32 pixel wide and 32 pixel tall. Is everyone following? Okay, someone is saying, how do we get the logo? I think I should share the file. This is the Figma file here. And get it from the Figma file. All I have to do is duplicate the Figma file and get the logo. Yeah, so I have shared the Figma file. Just duplicate it and get the logo. So is everyone following? Someone is saying I'm double clicking on my, and the stuff is not. Now, if you're double clicking and it's not showing, double click more. Like you can keep on double clicking or use your right, or let's say you right click. That's not going to show. All you have to do is, if you right click, click on edit. If you click on edit, this is going to show up also. So now I want us to set the height and width for this image container, this container that will contain our image. So the height and width will be set by selecting it and coming here and clicking on layout. When I click on layout, you will see that the width here is 44 pixels. So I'll change it to 32 pixels, and the height, okay, I think 32 is too small. Let's set this to 48. Let's set the width to 48 and the height here. Look at the height property here. Let's set it to 48 also, just like this. That's fine. So is everyone following still? Now, after setting it to 48 and 48, the next thing for us to do is to bring in our logo, which is our image, into this container. So to do that, I would come here now. I would click on appearance. When I click on appearance, I would click on upload. Then this is the image here. I would select it. It is an SVG, and I would click on open. Now we are going to wait for it to be uploaded into what we have here, and you can see that it's been uploaded into what we have here. Now the box has been increased, the height. So let's come back here. You can see that this is 48 and 48 still, but the height of the box has been increased. Now that may be from the fact that my image here actually is being messed up when I export it. Now that should not be a problem. That should not be a problem. So let's come here now. If you come here, you would see that there is a space between the end of this web page and the image, right? So for us to achieve that space, what I'm going to do is I would use the margin or the padding property. That's what I am going to do. I would use the margin or padding property to achieve that space. So let's go to our bubble app and let's achieve that. Now you guys will give me a second. It's me. Let me stay somewhere else. Okay. Okay then. So I would like for us now to give that space here. Sorry guys, I just had to leave where I was. So to do that, I'll keep this selected still. Come here, then I'll scroll down here. You'd see that at the bottom here we have this margins section here. Now margin is the outer space between an object and another object, right? So I want a margin space on the left of this object. So I would come here and I would type in 120. This is me typing in 120. You can type in 50 or 100 or whichever value that's okay with you. So when I type in 120, this image or this logo will stay here. And that's what I want. Now we have sorted this. Now we have sorted that. So the next thing we work with. So I think the next thing to create there will be this text here. Let's just do that. So I'd come here. To do that, you use this text tool here. Click on it to select it. Click on it, select it. Then let's come here and let's change this to sender. You can see we have this here. Now, the problem here. This is supposed to be in front of this image here, but currently you can see that this is behind the image. So how do we work around that? First of all, let's come here, let's click on layout, and let's see if that's going to be possible. Let's see if dragging it to the front is going to be possible. And as you can see, that's not possible. So what we should do better is to actually come here, select these two items, which are the brand. Let's group that. When you group it, then we can actually create a frame behind it. Let's create a frame behind it. Now this is it here, and let's work with this. So let's keep that selected. Come here and let's export this now. Just like that. Now let's work with this one that we have just exported. So if I come here, I'll take this out, I'll delete it by clicking on it and pressing delete. Then I would create a new image box, which is going to be this. So I would create this and I would upload this new logo or this new image into our image box. And you can see that we have this. So let's still keep it selected. Come here, click on layout, and let's increase the width. Let's decrease the width actually to, let's say, 180. And for the height here, let's set the maximum height of this to 100. And let's set the minimum height. Let's set it to 48, and let's see what we have there. So all you have to do is just come here and select the fixed height property. Look at it here. When you select, okay, someone is lost. Okay, I think let's just leave that at, let's come here. You would see this checkbox here, select it, and type in the value you want here, it's going to be 48 and it's going to look like this. Now, what I am doing currently is that I am going back to the building of this section, because the first time I tried to build it, we had an error actually, whereby this text was behind this image. So currently I am bringing it in front, and to do that, I had to group the two images, and I had to bring the two of them as one image into the application here. So now the next thing we need to do is to create this margin space on the left here, which we have here, this space here. Let's create that space. So I would come here, that space is on the left. I would set this to 120. Have that created. That's sorted. So this section is sorted. The next section we need to create is this section here, where we have this link that says what we do and contact us and login. We need to create this. So to create this, let's come here. Okay, someone is saying, okay. Okay, Einstein is saying aligning the container to row, yeah? Yeah, that would have solved it. That would have solved it, but it would actually be a problem when we try to make it responsive for mobile. So that's why I used the align to parent option there. So let's create this section here that has these links. So I'll come here. To do that, I'll use a group. So I would select this. I would create a group container here, just like this. So I would come here. I would create the group. And the group is actually staying on the left. You can see it is aligned here to the left. So give me a second. My mouse is malfunctioning. Okay, so the width of the group currently is set to 0. So let's set the width, the wideness of the group, let's set it to 100. Let's set the height to 100 so that we can see the group clearly. Now this is the group there at the end there. So let's increase the size to 600, the width, and let's set the height to just 80 actually. So this is our group. Now this group is the group that will contain this link, and this button. So let's create this link and this link inside that group. So I would come here now. Inside the group, what I'm going to do is I would use a link, not a text. Now, because that is a link, you won't use a text to create that. So you are going to use a link to create that. So I would select the link tool. Now come here inside the group and I'll create this. So I would change the name to what we do. I'll change the content there. So what we do. That's okay. So I would resize the box to this. Now I'll keep this selected. I would come here, I would click on remove style. Now, all of these details, all of these basic details might be confusing if you did not attend the first session we had, like the first session we had, where I covered just the basics. Now, this is not for the basics where we will really talk about things like remove style and the rest. I'm just trying to show you how we can achieve the application using Bubble. So I would come here, I would align this to the center, then I would center this vertically, and you can see that the text is centered vertically. Now I can change the color of the link to this, and that's fine. So I can duplicate this, have it here also. And what we have here is contact us. So I'll change the content there. Contact us, just like that. Then after that, we have a button here, right? So I would create a button, and to create a button in Bubble, all you have to do is just use the button tool, click on it to select it, then come here, and I would create the button. Now this button, I would like this button to have a text. Currently, the text on it is edit me. So I'll change the text here to login. And I'd like the button to be a 48 pixel tall button. So to do that, click on appearance still, then scroll down to this point where you'd click on remove style. When you click on remove style, then you come here, scroll down. Let's change, if we scroll down, I would want us to change the color of the button to black, like what we have here. Then for the height of the button, I would want us to come here, and the parent container type is fixed. Let's change this, and let's set the parent container type to row, actually. So I would click on the button now, and you can see that I can now change the height of the button from 34 to 48, like this. Then that's it. Now, what is happening here is that we are actually having the layout taking us back and forth with the container type, column, row, and all of that. All you just have to understand is that when you need elements to stay in a container on a straight line from left to right, you mostly use a row when the element will be inside a container. But when you need them to stay from top to bottom, you use column, like you set the parent container element type to button. Now, if that's confusing, don't worry about it. I think that's the really basics of Bubble, and that's what I am actually going to. I would create a session for that, but that's not the purpose of this. So I would come here, I would select the parent container now, which is this group, and I would keep the alignment to centered. And if I keep it centered, all the elements inside the container will be centered. If I keep it to right aligned, all the elements inside the group will be aligned to the right. So that's just it. If I keep it like this, this here is the space around element. There will be space around all the elements inside the container. And this here is the space between. There'll be a space between the elements in the container. Now, for those who know CSS and Flexbox, this is just the same thing. So what I'll do is I'll come here now. I'll keep this set to row. Take note, the group layout is set to row. The alignment is set to the left. Then I would make sure this is visible on load. Then I would keep the container itself aligned to the right side of the page. Now the width of the container is 600. We saw how to set that. So the next thing is for us to come here, select the link. What we do is the link. When I select it, I would click on layout. When I click on layout, I would come here and I would set this to centered. so that it will stay at the vertical center of its container. Same for contact us and same for button. Now they're all staying at the vertical center of their container. And this is okay, actually. This is okay. So you can see that we have created something similar to what we have here. We have created this and we have created this. And we created this as a reusable element. So we can use this for our what we do page, and we can use this for our contact us page. Now, just so that we don't make this overwhelming, I would leave this 5 minutes for questions. Ask me questions on anything that you found confusing, even if it's for the basics, then I'll touch on those basics. And from there, we can proceed to see how to make this responsive for tablet and for mobile. Then we put it on our main page and start building the rest of this section here. So this is going to be for that. Yes, the video will be available, I think, next week. Top next week. Creating the group. Okay, what about creating the group? To duplicate the link, yeah? This is what you do, the Figma file. To duplicate the Figma file, when you open it, come here, click, okay? I think this is in my own draft. Click on this drop-down arrow here. Click on this drop-down arrow. When you just click on the link, click on this drop-down arrow and click on duplicate. When you duplicate it, it will be duplicated to your draft. Then you can access it and use the assets inside the design. So someone is saying, what's the margin of the container on the right? Now for the container on the right here, this group here, the margin, I set the margin to 0. And that's because I have this space here. Now I might decide to come here still and still set it to 120, just like I did for this. But you can see that when I set it to 120, it is pushed in. So to avoid that, let's set this to 0 first, then let's reduce the wideness of this container. So to reduce the wideness, I'll take it from 600 to 400. And I'll set the right margin to 120. And that's a nice question because it shows that you are actually following. So this is now better. So what other questions? My header elements are in boxes. How do I take out the boxes? Your header elements are in boxes. Boxes, okay? Can you explain better so that I can know? Now, the next question here is saying, Emmanuel, I have answered your question, right? Now, the next question here is saying, what is the group A meant for? I saw the group B housing the link and the button. Okay, the group A, yeah, I think this group A is just, I did not really use it. I just created it. That was when my mouse was messing up. But I used the group B actually, so I can select the group A and delete it, right? Click on it here and delete it. Now, for those of us who don't understand this section is just like this section in Bubble, in Figma, where you can select something, select what you want and delete it. Here in Bubble, this is the section here. It's called Element 3. Whatever you put in the canvas will display here. So you can select there, delete there, edit there, and whatever you want to do there. So someone is saying, can you design with the grid in the Bubble app like we do in Figma? Yes, you can. Someone is saying the essence of aligning the header to parent is to make the responsiveness easy, right? Yes, that's it. That's the essence. Then someone is saying the container layout for the header elements should be fixed. The container layout for the header elements. Let's see. Let me understand what you're saying. The container, this container, right? Like the main header itself, it's aligned to parent. But this group here that contains the links is aligned to row. Actually, not fixed. So this is aligned. The main container itself is aligned to parent. So let's see other questions. So someone is saying, how do I set the width for the link? Okay, before I get to that, someone is saying the logo, the what do we do etc. They have this faint rectangular box around them. Okay, I think that's your graphics card. I understand what you're saying. I have I have encountered such before once when I was using Bubble early. I think that's your graphics card, but it's not a problem. It's not a problem. If that's still happening, you can send me a DM on Twitter with the screenshot, and I'll tell you what to do for that. Just send me a DM on Twitter. Now, someone else is saying, how do I set the width for the link? Now, when you create the link, yeah, like this, like you create the link, double click on it to have its own property window show up. You can come here, click on layout, and set the width for the link. Look at the width here, it's 116. This is the height. So you can also come here and set the width for that particular link. I hope that question was answered. Now, someone is saying, are we able to customize fonts? Yes, you are able to customize fonts. All you have to do, like for this font here, this is what we do link. If I scroll down to style, under style, you see that I'm using Barlow fonts currently. I can change this to Space Grotesque, and you can see that it's being updated here. So you can always update your font. You can change it to whichever font family you want to change it to. So let's change this also, since I have changed one. So if you have any other questions, you can ask the questions. I'll be okay. I think I need to reload. Someone is saying, is Bubble free to use? Yes, it's free to use. Do we always need to redesign in Bubble if I have a design already done in Figma? Is there a way to import? Yes, I think there is a way to import, but the import has issues currently. It's not really smooth. Sometimes you won't, I think, and there is a way you need to design in Figma. I think you need to design having everything in containers in Figma, and also when you are exporting, there are some principles. I think there is a video on YouTube for that. You can check video. You can check on YouTube. You can check on YouTube. Yeah. Someone is saying, how did you create the border? How did you create the border at the right side of the group? Okay, let me see that. Do you mean this border here? This line is actually not created by me. These blue lines, it's only when I put my mouse on top of there, it shows up. But this margin between this 120px margin between this group and the end of the page is created with the margin property here. Double click on the group for its own property window to show up. Then when you scroll down, you see that the right margin property here is 120 pixels. That's why that space is there. So I think the measurement you are using, are they standard or once you use it? Yes, you use whatever is good for you. So I think that's enough. Let's proceed with building. So now the next thing I would want us to see is for us to see how this can actually look. This will look on a mobile device or on a tablet device. And to do that, come here, click on the responsive tab here. When you click on the responsive tab, you would see that we have different devices at the top here, just like in Webflow. Now, this is for laptops or desktops. This is for tablets. This is for mobile devices in portrait, and this is for mobile devices. This is for mobile devices in landscape, and this is for mobile devices in portrait. So currently, the laptop or the desktop view is what is selected. So let's come here now. Let's select the tablet view and let's see how our header will look like. Now, this is how the header will look like on the tablet device. And this is not looking bad. We can decide to leave it like this or work on it. Now, let's see how it's going to look like on a mobile device that is in landscape. You can see that this is bad. We have this coming into this. That's really bad. Now, let's click on this other mobile. Let's click on the mobile device. You can see that this is really bad. So we need to work on that. And how do we work on it? We need to actually tweak the design to suit all devices. And the best way I would want us to do, the thing I want us to do first, let's update this font family to Space Grotesque. What I would want us to do first is to ensure that when this header is on a device that is 992, which is like on a tablet device, let's reduce this space, this margin space that is 120. let's reduce the space. Let this stay here and let the logo also stay here so that it can have more space for people to see. So I hope that's clear to everyone. So what we are going to do is we are going to double click on the group because it is this group we want to work on. So we will double click on it. When we double click on it, we will come here and we will click on conditional. Now, this conditional tab is what we are going to use to set the conditions we want to be met. And what are the conditions? We want that when this header is being displayed on a device where the wideness is around or is less than 992 or is equal to 992, this let this margin space be reduced from 120 to something smaller. So when we click on conditional, we will click on define another condition, just like this. Then we'll click on define another condition. Now, when you click on define another condition, I would click on this click here. You can see that we have this statement that says when. This is just like regular English. As you can see, it says when. So I would say when, and I'll type in the condition here. I would click here. So I would say when the current page width, like the current, when the wideness of the device or the wideness of the page, yeah, is, I would say is less than or equal to, I would use this less than or equal to symbol here. I'll say when it is less than or equal to 992, yeah? What I would want to happen is that I would want this margin space that is 120 to be reduced to, let's say, 64. So I would come here. This is where I would set what is going to happen. Now you can see it is like English. It says when the current page width is less than or equal to 992 pixels, let the current page width, let's set the right margin, which is currently set to 120. Let's set it to 64. So I hope that's clear. Yeah, this is just like media queries. Yeah. So I hope that's clear. So you can see that this condition is met. It's when the current page width is less than or equal to 992, let the right margin, which was 120, be reduced to 64. So this is it. So I can also come here, select this logo here. In the nav bar also, I would set the conditional for it also. I would say when the current page width is less than or equal to 992, let the left margin in this case be set to 64. And this is better. So on the desktop device, you see that the margin here is 120, yeah? On a tablet device, the margin currently that I have set for it is 64. So the right margin here is 64 and the left margin here is 64. Now let's see what's going to happen when we select the mobile device in landscape view. You can see that it looks like this, but actually I wouldn't want this to be the case, because so many devices might fall in this range. You might have some mini iPad devices fall in this range, and this will start clashing with the logo. So what I'll do at this stage is I would want us to come up with something better. So I would want this group to be hidden, and I would want a menu icon just that looks like this. I would want a menu icon that looks like this to show up. You can see that when I click on the menu icon, all of this shows up. So I would want a menu icon like that to show up. And we can do that here in Bubble. So the way to do that is to, first of all, come here, click on plugins, yeah? When I click on plugins, I would click on add plugins. I would want us to use a plugin for that. So I would say menu slide bar. Just type in menu slide bar, or let's say slide bar menu. Okay, this is it, slide bar menu. When you type in slide bar menu, click on install. When you install it, click on done. When you click on done, go back, click on design. When you click on design, now I'll bring that slide bar menu and place it here. Now, where is the slide bar menu? This is it here. When you install it, it will come and it will place itself here. So I would click on it, hold it, and drag it into this section here, like this, into the header. When I drag it into the header, you'd see that it will be automatically placed here on the top left corner. So we can change that by double clicking on the slide bar menu to have its own property window show up. Then I would click on layout here. When I click on layout, you would see this box here that is like auto layout in Figma. Like, you know, in Figma, if you create an auto layout, like if you create an auto layout in Figma, you will see that we have these whole settings here, center, top, all of this. Now that's the same thing we have here. So I would want this to actually stay on the right side of this page horizontally and at the center vertically. So I would click here and that's where it is. Is that clear? So the next thing I would like to do is I would like to set the width to 48 pixels and the height 48 pixels, just like this. Then I would like for the right margin to be 32. Now, when the users click on this icon, what will show up? What do we want them to see? We want them to see what we do, contact us, and log in. Yeah. So I would come here, I would click on appearance, and this is where I would set all of that. You can see where it says option 1 and option 2. I'll take out all of that and I'll type in what we do. I'll type in contact us. I'll type in login. And that's it. So let's go back and let's see how we can make this show up only on mobile devices. I would click on responsive here. Now, when I click on responsive, you will see that when this header will be viewed on a laptop or on a desktop, this is actually showing up. And we don't want this. We don't want this to show up on the desktop view, just like what we have here. If I take this back to desktop, that icon is not showing. So that's what we want to do here. So to make that possible, I'll double click on this menu slide bar and I'll click on conditional. And I'll define a condition that says when the current page width is greater than, like when it is greater than 768. 768 is, you can see the device here. Look at the number here, 768. When the current page width is greater than 768, I would make sure that this element is not visible. So I would select this element is visible and I will refuse to tick this. If you tick this, it means that the element will be visible. When I untick it, it means the element won't be visible. That's why it's not visible here. Now you'd see that this element will become visible only when I go below 768 or when I get to 768, which is this. So if I go to 992, the element is not visible. If I get to 768, it becomes visible. But we have a problem now. We need to make this invisible when it is at 768. We need to make that group invisible. So let's double click on the group now. And for its conditional, let's set another condition for it. And I would click on define condition and I would say when current page width is equal to or less than 768. I'll type in 768. When current page width is equal to or less than 768, let that group not show up. I would select this element is visible and I will refuse to tick this. And that's it. Now, I want us to know something here. Whenever an item is not displaying, the item sometimes occupy its space still. Like that space is still occupied by that item, but that's a bad design. So we want that space that the item is occupying to be taken out. Like we want to collapse the space. So to do that, I would click on layout. When I click on layout, I would come here, I would select this option that says collapse when hidden. So when this group is hidden, let the space that it is collapsed, let the space that it is occupying be collapsed. So let's see what's going to happen now. This is fine. This is fine. When we get to 768, this is now how it's going to look like. And when we get to 320, this is how it's going to look like. Now we need to work this design for 320, which is for mobile phones. We need to work it. Can the login be outside instead? Okay, yeah, actually it can be outside the group. That can be another design pattern that you can use. That's asked by Rufai. Yeah, it can be outside. You can keep it outside the group and still keep it outside for the mobile and tablet view. That's still another design pattern. So let's work on this logo for the mobile and this for the mobile. So what I'm going to do is I would click on this menu icon first. When I double click on it, I would go to the conditional tab and I would define another condition. I'm going to say when current page width, I would say when the current page width is less than, let's set it to 340. Currently, this is 320, right? But some Samsung devices are now 340. Some are even up to 400. So let's just say 340. When current page width is 340, let the right margin, which is 32, be set to 8, just like this. And also let the size, the width and the height of this box, the menu, be reduced. So I'd like to set the height, but that's not even something I can even set. So let's leave it like this. Let's set the margin, the right margin here to 8. And let's do that for this also. So I'll select this logo. You can see that the left margin is 64. That's a lot. That is pushing this into this section. So I would set another condition. I would say when current page width is less than 340, let the left margin be 8. Let's set this to 8. So you can see that this looks better, yeah? So this can look better on a mobile device. So for tablets or for mobile devices in landscape, this is how the header will look like. For tablets, it's going to look like this. And for desktops, it's going to look like this. And this is not bad at all. So this is now responsive. So I know this was a lot. So if anyone has any questions, actually, you can ask the questions. I know that was a lot, but if that was easy to understand, then I can proceed. So someone is saying mine does not show layout, it only shows appearance. Yeah, if yours doesn't show layout, it's because you did not upgrade to respond to the responsive beta. Like I mentioned before now, always upgrade. When you upgrade, it's going to show you the layout option. And this is what I mean. Yours won't show you layout here because there is a button here that you will see when you click on the main header itself that will say upgrade to responsive beta. Upgrade, click on that button first, then you'd have the layout show up. Now, someone is saying the logo margin is not 32 on the landscape phone. Let's see. The landscape. Yeah, it's okay for the logo. Yeah, this is 32 here and this is not 32. Okay, so let's set this. So I would say when current page width is less than 340, I would set another condition. When current page width is less than or equal to 768. Let the left margin, yeah? Okay, now let the left margin be set to 32. Okay, I think that's sorted. So that's okay now. So we have this, we have this, we have this, and that's fine. Now let's look out for more questions. Now, is the hamburger menu an icon, and what is the container name holding it? It's not an icon. It's a plugin that I installed. It's a plugin that I installed. So Isaac, I'm sure I have corrected what you brought up. So now we have created this reusable element. It means that we can start using it on our website or on our web application. So to do that, let's click on UI Builder here. Then let's go back to our home page, which is like the home page, like the front page of our website. So currently we are creating our header. So let's go back to our home page, which is called index. It's always called index page because it is the first page that the users always go to. So I'll click on it and we are back to this home page here. So how do we bring in the reusable elements? It's simple. Scroll down because we have created it, we can now bring it in. So I'll scroll down and this is it here. It's called header. You can call yours whatever you want to call it. This other header and this footer here is being created by Bubble by default. It's just like a template. I don't want to use that. So I'll select this, click on it, hold it and drag it into my own homepage. And this is it. So for me to see how it's going to look like in the browser, I would come here and I would click on preview. When I click on preview, a new tab will be opened and it's going to show me how the page is going to look like in the browser or how the app will look like in the browser. And this is how it looks like in the browser. Doesn't look bad at all. So let's go to mobile view. Let's see how it's going to look like. And this is how it looks like in mobile view. Let's start with iPad Air. And this is how it looks like in mobile view. So if I click on this icon now, you see that I have what we do, contact us and login show up. Just like that. Now, this animation, this sliding in, I never had to do that. I just had to use that plugin. You don't have to do it. Just use that plugin and it's going to control the animations for you. So if I leave the mobile view and I go to iPad Air, this is how it looks like on an iPad. If I go to the desktop view, this is how it looks like on a desktop view. So I know that's actually quite a lot. So if you have any questions also, you ask. This other section here is quite easy because it's just one container and one container. So if you have any questions, you can ask and I can proceed from there. Okay, it seems everyone is okay. So what we are going to do is, okay, how did you go back to the main section? Okay. How do we correct the sliding issue on a mobile device? Okay, that one actually was, that sliding issue is my browser. It's not an error from my own end. It's from the browser. Sometimes when designing for browsers like that, the responsiveness might look faulty, but it's not faulty. So all you have to do is just load another device. Like you can see, I have loaded another device now, and it's been corrected. Just load another device. Like you can see, this is faulty. Yeah, it acts faulty. But if I select Surface Pro, it's no more faulty. If I select Surface Duo, the same Surface Duo now is no more faulty. So it's just a browser hang up here and there. So someone is saying, how did I go back? This is it. I came here. You can see at the top left corner here, this is where you have all the pages and all the reusable elements. This section here is for the reusable elements. You can see it written here faintly. This section here is for pages. Now, since I created after creating the reusable element, I wanted to use it on a page. So I had to go to the index page so that I can take the reusable elements there. So when I clicked on index, I was brought to this page and I dragged the reusable elements from this section here into the page. I hope that's clear. Someone is saying, can I change the position of the hamburger menu on the mobile view? Like, yeah, like for it to be on the left. Yeah, you can. All you have to do is when you place, let's come here. Let's go to the reusable element. When you place it, you can see that if I click on layout, the hamburger menu is being, I positioned it to stay on the left. You can come here and keep it on the right like this. However you want to keep it, it's fine. And if you want it to slide in from the right, you can change it to right here like this. If you want it to slide in from the right, you can change it to right. You can come here and configure other settings like color and the rest of them there. That's fine. I hope that answered your question. Let's see the next. Will the video be available to those who couldn't join? Yes, the video will be available, I think, next week. The video will be available, I think, next week. So, another person is asking, I think I have answered all of the questions. Sorry to draw you back. I didn't get how you got to the index. Okay, this is it. It's at the top right corner, left corner here. You can see where my mouse cursor is on. When you click on it, you'd see the reusable elements here, and you'd see the page section here. So whichever page you are going to, you navigate by clicking any of them here. And since we are going to the index page, I'll come here now and click on the index page. And here we are in the index page. So I hope that's clear. So I would want us to proceed further, and see how to create this other section here. Now we have this section that says delivery timeline package, timely package delivery. So how do we create this section? Now in the real sense, this is how you do it. I'd advise you to just create like a container, like a group here that will contain all of this on the left, and create another one that will contain all of these on the right, just like this. Reason is so that when it is time for you to use your Flexbox, or when it is time for you to make it mobile responsive, all you'd have to do is move containers and not move elements. When you move the containers, the element in the containers will move with the containers. Like I can decide to move this and keep it here, or I can decide to move this and keep it under here like this. So as you can see, when I move the containers, the elements are moving. But if I had to move the elements one after another, it's going to be a problem. So that's why I would say we create a group on the left and a group on the right. And those groups will serve as our containers. So I hope that's clear also. If that wasn't clear, I can explain it again. Is that clear? Can I proceed? Okay then, so let's create the first container on the left, and let's create the other one on the right. Now remember, I set the container type of this index page, the container layout, to column, which means everything will be going from top to bottom, right? Now, but we need to create, but now there is need for us now to create a container on the left and on the right. That is impossible because since it is column, it means everything must be arranged from top to bottom. So we are going to play a trick here, and that trick will be that we will first of all create a container that will stay like this. Then we will now create these two that will stay on the left and right inside this container. I hope that makes sense. So let's do it so that you understand better. So I would come here, I would create a container with the group element. I would select group here. I'll create this. Just like this. Now, this group, let's check the elements tree. Now, this group is called group A. You can rename it. We can say hero section. Now, I would want this group here, the container layout of this group, to be set to row. The reason I want it to be set to row is because row is when you want to align things from right to left or from left to right. Yeah. So I would set this to row, and I would scroll down. I would uncheck this box that says make this element fixed width. I don't want this to be a fixed width. Reason is because it won't be fixed when it is going from different devices to different devices. It's going to increase or reduce. So I would uncheck fixed width. When I uncheck that, I would set the minimum width to, let's set it to 300. Reason is this: minimum width means that minimum width is the smallest width size that you can squeeze an element to. Like if I come here in Figma, for example, and I set, and you can see this width is 1068. If I say the minimum width of this rectangle should be 400, it means that you can only squeeze this rectangle to 400. When you get to 400, you will be unable to squeeze it below 400. So that is what minimum width is all about. It is the smallest width value that you can squeeze an element to. So I hope that explanation was clear. Yeah, column and row just like auto layout. Correct, Emmanuel. So I hope the minimum width stuff was clear. Yeah, Mohammed, this will be available later, I think next week. So if you understand the minimum width concept, I think we can then proceed. So what I have here is I'm setting the minimum width of this container or of this group to 300. And I'm setting the max width. Max width is the level you can increase the width to. So I'd like to set it to 100%. I would come here, I would change this from px to percent. So I would set this to 100%. 100% means that however wide the device will be, stretch the width to cover 100% of the device. But minimum width is squeeze this container or squeeze this group to this amount or to this number, and it's below this number. Is that clear? Okay. So what I'll do is, for the minimum height here, I'll just set this to 600. The height is not really important. I'll just set the minimum height to 600, and that's fine. So now we have created this container here, this big container. The next thing is for us to create these two containers inside, on the left and on the right, so that we can start placing this content inside. So I would come here. The first container that I will create will be on the left. I would select group here, and I would create the container just like this. Now, this container, I would like it to have a width of 600. But before we do that, let's make sure that the container layout itself is set to column. Now, why are we setting this to column? Is because if you come here, you see that the items in this container on the left is placed top, like top to bottom, just go downwards, which means it's set in column. So I would set that to column. Then I would come here, I would make sure that this container on the left is not set to fixed width. I would set the minimum width to 600. And I am setting it to 600 because the page itself is 1200. That's what I set. So I would set this to 600. Minimum width 600. Or you can come here and say the minimum width should be 50%. That's if you want that. But there is a problem here. Setting this to 50% will be a problem, or setting this to 600 will be a problem for the minimum width, because we are trying to tell the browser that you should not squeeze this container below 50% of the width screen or 600 pixels, and that's actually bad. So let's set the minimum width here to 300 also. And let's set the maximum width to 600. Just like this. So the maximum width is 600 pixels and the minimum width is 300 pixels. Just like that. So the next thing I would like for us to do is to set the height. So the height is actually going to be, let's set the height to 600, the parent container itself, and that's sorted. So we have this group on the left. We need to create this one that is on the right now. So we can just keep this selected and just duplicate it. As easy as that. But let's not duplicate it. I'd like for us to create everything manually. So now this is it, called Group C. Let's configure it. This also will have to be set to column. Then let's uncheck the fixed width. Let's set the minimum width to 300, and let's set the maximum width to, let's set it to 600 pixels. So, and for the height, let's set the height also to 600. That's okay. Now, you may not be seeing these containers evidently. Like if I click outside my layout now, you may not see it show up, but you can see that when I bring my mouse on the layout, the page is being divided, just like Webflow. The page is being divided. You get it? So the page is being divided when I hover my mouse on the layout, which means that we can now place our items perfectly. So let's go ahead and let's place the first item, which is this text that says timely package delivery. So I would come here, I would select the text tool, and I would create it inside here. Now, this may work, but in my opinion, doing it like this will leave you stranded in the long run. It will be best, yeah, if I delete this and create another container, like another group. Like for this now, let's say I create another group that will have this inside. Then create another container for this and another container for this. Reason is because this is how websites are being built, like HTML and CSS, React and all of them. This is how it is being built. The div container structure works like this. So I would want us to use that practice so that if you pick up HTML and CSS, you can understand what you're doing. So let's come here, let's create another container on this, inside this left container. This container now, which is a group, will be for that text. So you can rename it to big text. You can call it whatever you want to call it. So I create that. I would click on layout here, and I can set this to fixed. I can just leave it set to fixed, or I can set this to align to parents, but I'll leave this set to fixed. Then for the width, yeah, I would come here. You can see that the width and the height is already fixed. And this is not good. Isn't good at all, because setting this to fixed width means that they won't reduce in size. So I'm trying to let you know the bad side of giving elements fixed width. Don't always do that. Always ensure that you try as much as possible to make them flexible, because they will be viewed on different devices, and it is how flexible they get that your design is cool. So let's change this from fixed width to from fixed to row. Yeah. Let's see what we have. We have all of this. Let's set it to align to parent. Let's see what we have. So I would set this to row, just like this. And let's see what we have. We have this. Let's set this to column. Let's see what we have. We have all of this. So I would want you to set it to column. So setting it to column will leave us that if we come here, we can now create a text inside this container. Now you can see that that text is now inside the container, and the content of the text currently is edit me. Over here we have timely package delivery. I would take out edit me and I would say timely page delivery. Yeah, I would keep it selected. I would come here, I would click on remove style, and I would increase the font size. I would type in, let's say 72 there. That's a lot, actually. Say 64. Then I'll change the font family. Now, all of this is just like what you know in Figma. I'll change the font family to 600, grotesque 600. Then for the line spacing and all of this, that's not really necessary for now. The next thing I would want for us to work on is the layout here. Let's click on layout. And the width of this text box is currently set to 516 as a fixed width. I would uncheck this so that it won't be a fixed width anymore. When I uncheck it, I would come here. I would set the minimum width 300. I would set the maximum width to, let's say, this. Then I would come here. I would set the height here to 100, like this. That's okay. So now you can see that this timely package delivery is close to the top of our container. We can change that with the margin property here. So let's set the top margin to 82. And that's it there. And let's set the left margin to 120. And that's it. So you can see that we are beginning to set it properly. Here it seems too big. So let's change the font size to, let's change it to 48. But it seems to be cool. And the font family, let's make it here. So space grotesque 700 is okay. So we have this container now that contains the text. So the next thing we are going to work on is this section here that has this text. Let's copy that text. Let's come here to create the text. Inside this container on the left, we all know what to do. We need to create another container for it. So I would create this container here, and I would paste it. So I would create that container. And what I'll do is I'll come here. I would set this to row also. And I would uncheck fixed width. Give it a minimum width of 300, a maximum width of 600. then I would create a text inside the container. Okay, this actually has a fixed width. This container up here, let's give it a minimum width of 300, maximum width of 600. So this here, let's bring in a text and place it inside there. Then let's paste the text here. That's what we have. So I'll keep that text there. Click on layout for the text, and I would uncheck fixed width, which is the normal thing to do. Then the minimum width, 300, maximum width, 600. And for the minimum height, I can set this to 48. Let's set it to 64. That's okay. Now for the top margin, I'll just set this to 12. And for the left margin, I'll set it to 120 to have this. Now for the right margin, I can decide to set this to 64. And this will actually create some space here. Let's have this look like this. I hope this is making sense to some people. Yes, everything is just frames and containers, everything. If we come here on our app, you see that we already have it. If I refresh it, you see we already have it looking like this. This is what we have been building so far. So this is coming together gradually, gradually, gradually. So I hope this is making sense to some people already. Yeah. So now we have created this. Now it's time for us to create this button, and we need to create the button inside its own container. So I would come here now. I would create another container for that button, like this. And I'll set it to row also. Then I would uncheck fixed width. Minimum width, I'll set this to even 200. Maximum width, 600. Minimum height is okay. Now, what I'll do next is to bring in the button element here. Now, for this button, what I have here is send package. So I'll type in the text here that says send package. I would come here, I would remove style for the button so I can change the color to black like this. Then for the font family of the button, I'll change this to space grotesque. Make it bold. Then now for the height of the button, yeah, I would want the width of the button to be fixed because it's a button actually. There is no need for me to make it responsive or to be stretching here and there. I'll leave it there. I'll leave the set to fixed. But for the height of the button, the height should be 48. I think the button is too slim. Or we can make it 64. Let's see how it's going to look like. Okay. If that's okay, let's leave it like that. Then for the top margin, leave it set to 0. For the left margin, set this to 120 also. I think that button is too tall. Probably that's me. Let's set it to 52. Okay. Then for the corner radius of the button, if you come here under appearance, you'd see that if you scroll down, there's a roundness feature here set to 5. I'd like this to be set to 4 actually. 5 is an odd number. I'd set it to 4. And over here, we have a conditional that is automatically set by Bubble. This is a hover conditional. And if I reload the app here in the browser, you see that we have this. If I hover on it, that conditional is effective. But I don't like that. That design doesn't look cool at all. Doesn't look cool. So I think we need to take out the conditional. What we need to do is delete it. Click on this delete button here. Click on that one and click on this one. Or you can come here and just click on remove condition. And that's sorted. So if we go back now and we load our app, you'd see that no conditional is being affected here. We can actually set a conditional for ourselves. That's possible. So if you are building along, I would also want you to set the conditional for yourself. So you can see that we have been able to set this. So this is now created. What we have remaining is just this section here. And we already created the container for this section. So what we will do is just get this as an image from Figma, download it as an SVG, then take it to what they call it, take it to Bubble and use it there. So I would leave this session for questions. Someone is saying, can a condition be set on all buttons instead of one? Yes, you can reuse conditions. You can always copy conditions and paste. I think that's something that happens in Webflow, but I don't think happens in Bubble yet. So we can always do that. If you have any questions before I create the other section, you can ask the questions. If you don't have questions, then I'll show you something here. When you are viewing your website in the browser or your web application in the browser, you will see this bottom debugger here. This debugger creates more space at the bottom, as you can see. All the space is created by the debugger. That can be frustrating sometimes. So take out the debugger, come here in the URL here in the browser, take out from debug _ mode equal to true. Select it, press the delete key to take it out, then reload the remaining characters in the URL by pressing the enter key like this, and you will reload. Now you'd see that debugger is no more showing at the bottom. Now this is what we have. How are you viewing in a web browser? Yes, simple. All you have is, while you are building, come here, click on preview. When you click on preview, it will be opened in a new browser tab on its own, just like that. So I think I can, okay, what is the importance of creating a container for all of my elements? Yeah, the importance is so that you can actually tweak the element based on its container when you are making it responsive. It's going to be a lot more dirty if when I need to tweak this text here for a mobile device, I have to come and touch the text. But in this case, I can just work with the containers. And all of these containers are inside one major container, which is this. So I hope that's clear. Now let's view what we have here on a mobile device. Let's see how it looks like. So let's click on responsive. This is how it looks like on a laptop or a desktop. On a tablet, this is how it looks like. On a mini tablet, this is how it looks like. You can see that this one is not properly done. This text here is not properly done. It means we have an error over here. So let's fix that. Let's go to UI Builder. Let's select the text. If I select the text and I go to layout, you'd see that fixed width is actually a problem here. But actually, this is not set to fixed width. So the problem is that we need to reduce the minimum width value to, let's say, 200. Let's look at the group that it is inside of. The group also, let's reduce this to 200. And now let's come here now. Let's click on the responsive. So let's click on 768. You can see that this is now working perfect. And for mobile, this doesn't look good because there's too much space here on the left. So the same way we took out those margin space when we were creating the header elements is how we are going to take it out when we are creating this mobile device. So we are going to get to that very soon. But for now, let's just create this section first before we try to make everything completely responsive. So I hope everyone is following. Let's come here. Let's click on UI Builder. Then let's create this section. To create that section, I'll go to my Figma 9 file. I'll get this asset there. I'll copy this. I'll highlight it. and I'll just group it first of all, and I'll keep it selected, and I'll create a frame on the group, frame selection. Now I'll keep this selected, and I'll export it. So I'll export this frame here, which is frame 7. I'll export it as an SVG. And that's it there. So if I come here, all I'm going to do is bring in the image container here. I would select the image tool and I would create a container for the image here. Now the container is called image A. I would set the container properly first. I would click on layout. When I click on layout, I would not make this a fixed width. I would set the minimum width to 300, max width to 480, and I would align this to always stay at the center. Then for the top, for the height, I would want this to be 480 also. And for the max height, set this to 480 also. And then for the top margin, I would set this to 64. That's like this. We are going to see if that's going to look good actually. So I'll set it to 64 and that's okay. Now I would come here, click on appearance, and I would click on upload to bring in that image, which is an SVG. Let's see what we have. Okay, that's how it looks there. Let's see if this makes sense. Let's go to our browser. Let's see if it makes sense. Okay, not really making, it's too away, it's too far from the right, yeah? So let's see how that's possible. So I think we should align this to the right. Let's make it right aligned and let's see the effect. Okay, it's not really aligned to the right, but this is something we can work with actually. This is something we can work with. I think all you have to do is in Figma, increase the width of this rectangle to be as big as the black rectangle here. But I think we all get the clear picture, yeah? So I hope everyone is following. Okay, the max width. Let's try that. Somebody just brought up an idea. The max width, let's set it to 100%, which is infinity, yeah? Let's bring this here. Let's see what's happening. That's still not coming out fine. What you have here is a lot of space, a lot of empty space will be created. So that's why I'd like to set this to 480. And that's going to be pixels. Just like that. Now for the top margin, let's set this to 72. And this looks better. We can stretch the option in the horizontal alignment. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. We can use the stretch option, the horizontal alignment. Yes, you can. Now I use the margin of 120 and it looks better. Okay, a margin of 120 at the top or on the left. Okay, someone is giving an idea. How about to set a margin? Okay, let's do that. Let's give it a right margin of 120. Oh, left margin, I think. Left margin of 120. Let's try that and let's see what we have. Okay, mine is not actually effective, and that could be because, let me keep it here. That could be because of my browser also. Okay. Mine is not effective. So let's set this to the right. Okay, I'll set mine to the left and I'll just leave it this. So, but I just want you guys to have an idea on how you can actually come up with a UI like this. And I hope the idea is clear. If the idea is clear, then I would want us to make it responsive. Then I think we should work on the login page if we have time and see how to log the users in. Let's work on the let's work on the login, and maybe we can work on the sign up. Okay, so margin right will push it away from the right. Yep. So, but is everything clear so far? Okay, then. So let's see how to make this responsive. This is for desktop. This is for tablet. And this actually is for portrait. And if I scroll down, you see that this collapses itself to this point. So this for landscape mobile. I think this doesn't look bad, but we need to work on it more. So I would select this group here. I would come to conditional and I would say when current page width is less than, I'll say when current page width is, okay, I'll say less than, just less than, not equal to, let's say 800. Left margin is set to 0. So this margin is actually 0. So the problem is not with the container, it's with the text here. It has a left margin of 120. That's what we will set the conditionals for. So I would come here. But in your case here, I would advise you to always set the conditionals on the container, actually, not on the element. This was an error, but we are going to fix it. So I would set the current page width, and it is less than 800. Let the left margin be reduced from 120 to 16, just like this. I'll do the same for this. Less than 800. Let the left margin be set to 16. Now I would want to reduce the font size of this text. I would also come here. I would say while this conditional is true, I would set the font size. I would reduce the font size from 48 to 32. That's okay, yeah? That's also possible. Now, the next is this button here. The button itself has a left margin property, which I will reduce also with the conditional tab here. I'll say when current page width is less than 800, let the left margin be 16. And this is what we have. Not looking bad. Now I want someone, I would like for the design of somebody, anyone watching, to be very consistent in a very perfect way. Since this is me teaching, we won't have much time to deal with the details to the end. Okay, for Emmanuel, no, it won't. And someone is saying try parent container space between. Okay, Philip Philip tried. Philip has given me that observation. So what I would want for you guys watching to do is to ensure that the spacing between this item in the header is also consistent in the resizing why you are working on the space between these other elements. Like as you can see, all the space now, the items seem to be on the same line here, but here they are not on the same line. Almost the same line, almost the same line. So I would like for you guys to also make this stay on the same line. Now, this will also be possible if you are careful with the way you create your logo in Figma. Don't give a space on the left. Create your logo, then put it probably in an auto layout and take away the padding space on the left so that it's going to start on the exact left line. So that when you bring it in here, you can also take out that space and make sure all of this stays on the same line. But since this is just a teaching class, we won't look at that. So this is okay. This is okay. Now for this element here, if we select it, I would say that when this page also, when current page width is less than 800, let the left margin be 16, just like this. Let the left margin be 16. So I think that's supposed to be when current page width is less than 800, the left margin be 16, but we have a problem there. So now you can see this. This is now less than 16. This is now 16. But this like this, this like this, this like this, and this like this. So this is as responsive as we want it to get. Now, what we are going to work on is the mobile device actually, because for mobile, this looks like this. Which in my opinion currently is not as bad as it is, yeah, but we can actually work on it to reduce the size of all of these space, to take out some of this space so that we can have a better mobile look. But yes, you can't see the size to reduce the font size. For you to see that, it means you need to select the font itself. The font has to be what is selected. If the font is what is selected, then you can reduce the size of the font in the conditionals tab. Now, someone is saying, is that image container not too close to the left side, like it's the white space in between the image? Okay, Samuel, I would like to understand better. Are you talking about this page, this white space here? Like what I have here? Okay, I think we are going to confirm if we reload our page in the browser. Let's go to a Nest Hub device. Now this is how it looks like in a Nest Hub device, and this isn't looking bad. This is not looking bad. This is how it looks like in a Nest Hub. This is how it looks like in a Nest Hub Max. This is not looking bad. Then let's look for a bigger bigger tablet device. Surface Duo. Surface Duo is not really wide. Let's look for an iPad Air. The iPad Air doesn't really look good, if you ask me. Doesn't really look good. Let's test for the Galaxy Fold. Okay, this is just going to be like a mobile device actually. Now, Surface Pro doesn't also look good. So I think for the Surface Duo the Surface Duo looks good, but it's the Surface Pro that's not looking good. But for the iPhone 12, this is how it looks like in the iPhone 12. The only problem in the iPhone 12 is that this white space is a lot. That's the only problem with the iPhone 12. That space is a lot. And I think everyone here agrees with me that that space is a lot. So let's see how we can close that space. So what I'll do is to close that space, I would select the group, the left group. Remember, we created two groups. First of all, like this group on the left, this group on the right. We created one main group first, one main group that contains this left group and this right group. So what I'll do now is to select this left group, which is group B. I'll set a conditional for it, which is when the current page width is below, let's say 420. Let the height, let its minimum height be reduced from 600 to, let's say, 400. Let's see how that's going to be possible. Okay, it worked. It worked. So the space here has been reduced. And that's because I reduced the height when this is in a mobile range, like when the width is in a mobile range. So this looks better. For an iPhone XR, this looks better still. For iPhone SE, this still looks better. For the iPhone SE, then let's try a Samsung device. Samsung devices are always what you should look out for. So let's go with this. And this looks good on the Samsung device. If this space is too much, you can reduce your space further. Actually, if that's too much, you can reduce the space further. But for me, that's okay. So is everyone following? Do I need to explain any other thing, like more than what I have explained? If there's anything you are lost about, you can just say them to me so that we can explain them further. If there's any step that got you confused, you can also say them so that we can explain. Now, this is how the landing page of this app that we want to design looks like, and it is responsive here. But you can see that the login button is not active, the send package button is not active, and these are the two actions that the users will have to take, either to send their package or to log in so that they can send their package. Now, these are the actions that we are going to do tomorrow. We are going to see how to create authentication, log a user in, sign a user up. Then while the user signs up, we send a confirmation email to the user that the user has been signed up to the application. Then we will also see how to create a page that the user will use to send their package. And when the user places an order, a reference code or a tracking code will be sent to the user's email and also sent to us, the admin, so that we can use that to track whatever package that the user put up for us to deliver. So, but today we have seen how to create all of this. So I would like to know if there are any other questions, because tomorrow won't be about the UI a lot. We are going to look at the functionality and all of that, which is going to be really interesting than this session today. So if there are questions, I'd like to take questions and we can proceed from there. Too much questions, but we'll read up for tomorrow. Okay. Others, how about others? If you have any questions, if there is anything you want me to talk about tomorrow, you can also ask me. And if there is anything you don't understand clearly today, you can reach out to me in my DMs on Twitter. I think 2 hours or 3 hours from now, I'll be free. After this, I'm going back to work for like 2-3 hours. Then I'll be free after that, and you can reach out to me and ask me any questions. Okay. My page just stacked against itself, and I tried the responsive thing. Like I used the wrong content layout. Yes, I think that's the problem, but you can reach out to me with details about it. Okay. My question is around Lighthall generally. As the recording is readily available, it will be available like within 24 hours or 48 hours. And I would also like to say that you guys should also sign up for the bootcamp. There is a product design bootcamp and there is a low code development bootcamp actually. So the low code development bootcamp will be about bubble. The bubble guys in the bootcamp will develop what the product designers design as their project. So that's how it's going to work. The product designers will design some applications, and the bubble developers will develop the application and deploy it to live. We are also going to see how to deploy a live bubble application. So that way, the product designers can say, "Yeah, I have worked and I have experience designing a startup or two, three startups, and these are the links to the applications of the startups here." And the bubble developers will also say, "Yes, I have built a bubble application to live, like to a live version, and this is the link to that." Now, if you have three live project on your resume as a bubble developer, that's a plus. Everybody you talk to will listen to you. If you want to be a freelancer, you would easily get a job. If you want to be a 9 to 5er, you would easily get a job. And as a product designer, you would get more audience if you have designed a live project, because that means you have worked around the process, you have worked with product managers, and you understand the whole process. So that way, you can easily place yourself as a product designer with experience and place yourself as a local developer with experience. Also, if you want to take the two tracks, the product design and low code track, that's also a plus. You can be a product designer with experience and low code developer with experience, which means that you can apply for two roles. You can be applying for two roles: product design, low code development. So you guys can, yeah, there are three tracks. Yes, if you apply for the three tracks, you'd have three live projects on your resume covering those three tracks, actually covering those three tracks. So you guys can sign up. The link to the bootcamps are in the description. Not in the description, actually. They are on my timeline. Like if you check my timeline on Twitter, the pinned tweet has details about the bootcamp and the links to register. If you have any difficulty registering, you can also reach out to me. So thank you everyone for joining. See you guys tomorrow. No, John, they are not different actually. They are not different. It is. Yeah, Shola, thanks a lot. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Emmanuel. Thank you, Palikis. Naya, thank you. John, thank you.